The Holy One, blessed be He. Welcome to Beit, Yisrael International's Voice of Torah podcast. I am Gaddi Efrayim, and today we explore Parashat Yitro, a lesson in transformation and redemption, with host agents Abraham and Sarah. Yitro's journey shows that even those steeped in idolatry can recognize HaShem. His transformation into a Ger Tzedek, righteous convert, demonstrates the universal reach of divine truth. Once a priest of Midian, Yitro abandoned falsehood upon witnessing HaShem's greatness. His acceptance of Torah parallels the prophetic vision of all nations, acknowledging HaShem's sovereignty. The Talmud states, one who separates from idolatry is considered as one who has joined Israel. The Zohar deepens this idea. When Yitro came and said, "Now I know that HaShem is greater than all gods," Exodus 18:11, then the upper and lower worlds were rectified, and only then was the Torah given. This signifies that Torah's revelation impacts not just Israel, but the whole world. Conclusion: Yitro's transformation teaches that no one is beyond redemption. The Torah is a light for all who seek truth. May we see the nations come together to proclaim HaShem's sovereignty. Thank you for joining Voice of Torah. I am Gaddi Efrayim. Shalom and blessings.
Ever think about how one person's story could actually kind of mirror the spiritual journeys of entire nations?
Yeah.
That's what we're exploring today.
Okay.
We're going to take a deep dive into the story of Yitro. But
yeah, he's an interesting figure.
it's not just a historical anecdote.
Right. The Jewish sages, they saw something way deeper in Yitro.
Yeah, they saw him as this prototype,
Yeah.
like a symbol of humanity's search for truth
For sure.
and connection with the divine.
100%.
And our guide for this deep dive is a fascinating work called
I'm excited to hear about this.
Yitro as a representation of the nations in the sages' writings.
Okay.
We'll be unpacking insights from various Jewish mystical texts, including the Midrash,
Oh, nice.
Talmud, and Zohar,
Classic.
and even touching on the teachings of Kabbalistic masters,
Yeah.
like the Urizal and the Vilna Gaon.
Those are some heavy hitters.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
So what I find so interesting about this is that he wasn't just some random guy
Yeah.
who happened to meet the Israelites.
Yeah. What was his deal?
Right. He was a high priest,
Oh, wow. So he was already
deeply immersed
super...
in Midianite spirituality. So he
Ah.
was already steeped in spiritual practices.
Yeah.
But he wasn't satisfied.
Oh, interesting.
He actively explored
Like he was looking for something.
different forms of idolatry,
Wow.
searching for something more,
He was on a journey.
something truer.
Yeah. His story really highlights that inherent human desire
Yeah.
for truth.
That's what's so fascinating about this.
I think we can all relate to that.
Totally,
Like we've
yeah.
all had those moments where we question
Yeah.
our beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
We search for a deeper meaning,
Totally.
try to kind of refine our understanding of the world.
Yeah. And it's fascinating how the Talmud suggests
Yeah.
that someone who turns away from idolatry
Mm-hmm.
is considered, in a spiritual sense,
Okay.
to be joining the Jewish people.
Wow.
Imagine that.
So just by rejecting
A non-Jew
false beliefs.
who rejects false beliefs
Yeah.
is seen as aligning themselves
Bro.
with Israel's mission.
That's a powerful idea.
I know, it's crazy.
It really speaks to the universality
Yeah,
of the search for truth.
totally.
To just that
Yeah,
rejecting falsehood is a crucial step
totally.
on the path towards spiritual growth.
Regardless of your background.
Doesn't matter who you are or where you come from.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And here's where things get really interesting.
Okay, I'm listening.
The sages teach that the Torah's wisdom wasn't meant
Okay,
just for the Jewish people.
right.
They believed it had a universal purpose,
Yeah,
a blueprint for elevating all of creation.
like a cosmic construction manual.
Yeah.
Yeah, that gets to the heart of Jewish mystical thought.
Yeah.
It's not just seen as a book of laws,
Right.
but as a blueprint,
For the universe.
like the source code,
Containing wisdom.
relevant to all humanity.
For example,
Hit me with an example.
the Zohar,
Oh yeah, the Zohar.
a key Kabbalistic text,
Classic text.
states that the world couldn't achieve its full potential
Okay.
until Yitro declared.
Uh-huh.
Now I know that HaShem is greater than all gods.
That's a big statement.
I know.
That's huge.
And it's fascinating that the Zohar links it
Yeah.
to the giving of the Torah.
So his declaration
Right.
represents like a crucial shift
Yes.
in consciousness.
Totally.
It's recognizing that there's like a single
Yeah.
unified force
A single source.
behind all of existence.
Totally.
And the Zohar suggests that this recognition of unity
Yeah.
is essential
It's like a prerequisite.
for the world to be ready to
Yeah.
receive
Right.
the wisdom of the Torah.
Exactly. So we're seeing that Yitro's story isn't just about
Right.
one man's conversion.
It's about something bigger.
It's about something much bigger.
Yeah.
The potential for all nations
Yeah.
to recognize this divine unity.
That's powerful.
Right. And this is where the concept of birur hanetzatzat comes in.
I've heard of that term.
Have you?
Yeah, but I'm not really sure what it means.
Yeah, it literally means elevation of the sparks.
Okay, elevation of the sparks.
And it's used by Kabbalists to
Oh.
describe the process of uncovering
Okay.
and elevating
Interesting.
the hidden sparks of holiness.
So there's holiness hidden
Yeah.
like everywhere.
That exist within all of creation, even within those who seem far from spiritual truth.
So even people who aren't necessarily
Yeah.
like religious or spiritual
Yeah.
still have that potential.
Yeah.
That's
But
beautiful.
beautiful concept.
Yeah, it suggests that everyone,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of background or beliefs,
Doesn't matter where you come from or what you believe.
has that spark of the divine
Yeah, that potential for connection.
and spiritual growth.
Totally. And the Arizal,
Oh, they were right.
a prominent Kabbalist,
Right.
saw Yitro's arrival at Sinai as a symbolic representation
So his arrival
of this process.
is like a symbol of this whole idea of
It suggests
birur hanetzatzat.
that even those who initially rejected the Torah
Okay.
will eventually return to its wisdom.
Interesting. So there's like this ultimate return to truth.
It's like this idea that everyone has that potential within them
Yeah.
that's just waiting to be awakened.
It's hopeful in a way.
Very hopeful, very hopeful.
Yeah.
And that brings us to a really thought-provoking idea.
I'm ready.
Yitro isn't just a historical figure.
Mm-hmm.
He's seen as a prophetic symbol
Uh-huh.
of the Messianic era,
Okay. The Messianic era.
a time of global peace and spiritual awakening.
Big stuff.
I know, but before we dive into that, can we
Yeah.
back up a little?
Sure.
For those who might not be familiar,
Right.
can you explain what the Messianic era refers to?
Oh, yeah. So the Messianic era in Jewish thought
Yeah.
is this future time
Okay.
of global peace, justice, and spiritual enlightenment,
When everything's off.
basically.
Yeah.
And it's a time when, according to prophecy,
Yeah.
all nations will come together
Right
to
there.
recognize and worship the one God.
Wow. So how do the sages connect Yitro to this idea?
Good question.
What is it about his story that makes him a symbol?
Well, they see a parallel
Okay.
between his personal journey
Yeah.
of recognizing God
Mm-hmm.
and the prophecy in the book of Zechariah,
Okay.
where nations come to Jerusalem
Right.
to learn God's ways.
So it's like he's a prototype
Yeah, like he's paving the way.
for this larger global transformation.
Exactly. He's like the first domino.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And the Arizal takes this even further
Oh, yeah.
with the idea of birur hanetzotzat, right?
Right.
Can you unpack that concept a little more for us?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Arizal taught that Yitro's arrival at Sinai
Yeah.
symbolizes this process
Okay.
of refining and elevating the sparks of holiness.
So these sparks are like
Yeah.
scattered
That are scattered throughout the nations.
Oh.
It suggests that even those who initially rejected the Torah
Hmm.
still have a spark
like a little ember.
of divine potential within them,
Yeah.
just waiting to be ignited.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's a pretty powerful concept.
Really powerful.
Yeah.
So we're seeing this idea that Yitro, like in recognizing the one God,
Yeah.
is somehow setting the stage
Hmm.
for a future time
Right.
of like global unity and spiritual awakening.
It's a beautiful vision.
Yeah, it is. But how exactly does that process unfold?
That's a great question.
What does this elevation of holy sparks actually like look like in the world?
Right. So it's important to remember that the Messianic era
Yeah.
isn't just about like everyone suddenly
Yeah.
becoming Jewish.
Okay.
It's about like a universal recognition of God's truth
Okay.
and a commitment
Yeah.
to living in accordance with that truth.
So are you saying that like the sages believed all nations will eventually come
Not necessarily.
to embrace the Torah?
In a literal sense of like
Right.
observing all the commandments.
Okay.
The idea is more nuanced than that.
Okay.
They believed that the core principles of the Torah,
Yeah.
like justice, compassion, ethical living, the recognition of a single unifying force,
Right.
these are the things that will ultimately resonate with all of humanity.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
It's about those universal values
Exactly.
that can like uplift and inspire people.
Regardless of their background or beliefs.
Exactly. And Yitro embodies this idea.
He did.
He wasn't born Jewish,
Right.
but he recognized the truth of the Torah.
He did.
And embraced its wisdom.
100%.
So in a sense, he's like a bridge between
I like that.
the particular and the universal,
Yeah.
showing that the Torah's message has relevance for
For everyone.
all of humanity.
For sure.
That's a great way to put it.
And his story provides like a powerful model.
For how this process of recognizing truth can unfold.
It starts with seeking, with questioning,
Yeah.
with being open to new perspectives.
Be open to new ideas.
Exactly.
Yeah, and this brings us back to the concept of Biro Hanetzatzat.
Right.
How does this process of elevating
Good question.
the sparks of holiness actually play out
With
in the world?
The Kabbalists teach
Yeah.
that we can, in fact, contribute to this process
Okay.
through our own actions.
What do you mean?
Like every time we choose kindness over cruelty,
Okay.
justice over injustice,
Mhm.
truth over falsehood,
Yeah.
we're hoping to elevate those sparks.
So it's not just like
It's not passive.
a passive waiting game.
Right.
We can actually play an active role in
We could be active participants.
bringing about this time of global transformation.
100%.
Wow, that's empowering.
Every act of love,
Yeah.
every pursuit of knowledge,
Mhm.
every effort to create a more just and compassionate world,
Yeah.
all of these things contribute to the elevation of those holy sparks.
They're just like,
And they bring us closer
Yeah.
to that messianic vision.
like every little act of goodness can
Exactly.
make a difference.
It all adds up.
That's really cool.
It is.
It's interesting that the Torah places
Yes.
Yitro's story right after the story of
Amalek.
who attacked the Israelites in the desert.
Right.
It's almost like the Torah is presenting us with
Yeah, like a
a
contrast.
stark contrast.
Two different ways of being in the world.
Two very different ways of relating to the world.
Absolutely.
You're absolutely right. The sages highlight this contrast
Yeah.
to emphasize the two fundamental choices
Right.
facing humanity,
A big choice.
embracing truth and connection like Yitro,
Yeah.
or resisting and rebelling like Amalek.
Two paths.
Can you unpack that a little more?
Sure.
What does Amalek represent in this context?
So Amalek represents like those forces in the world
Okay.
that thrive on negativity,
Okay.
doubt, and opposition.
Like the forces of darkness.
They attack the vulnerable.
Yeah.
They spread chaos and fear.
Right.
They try to undermine any movement towards
Oh.
unity or progress.
Okay.
They're like the opposite of Yitro.
And Yitro, on the other hand, represents
The opposite.
those who seek truth, who are open to learning, who are
Yeah.
willing to embrace a path of
Yeah.
unity and cooperation.
Exactly. The building
And the placement of these two stories
back to back.
to back
Yeah.
suggests that
It's like a message.
these are the two fundamental paths
Right. The choice is ours.
available to us.
Which path do we want to walk?
Wow, that's a powerful message and one that feels
It's relevant.
incredibly relevant today.
Yeah.
We see so much division and conflict in the world,
It's tough out there.
so much negativity and cynicism.
It's easy to get caught up.
It's easy to feel overwhelmed and lose hope.
Yeah, I hear you.
But Yitro's story reminds us that even in the darkest of times,
Yeah, even when things are tough,
there's always a path towards light.
there's always hope
There's always the possibility of transformation,
of coming together.
of unity, of embracing truth and working towards a better future.
It's not just about some distant messianic era.
Right.
It's about the choices we make
Every day.
every single day.
The ways we choose to interact with the world,
Yeah.
and with each other.
How do we treat each other?
Exactly.
How do we show up in the world?
Yitro's story is a call to action.
It is.
It's a reminder that each of us
Yeah.
can contribute to that process of elevating the sparks,
Of bringing more light
of bringing more light and goodness into the world,
and moving us closer.
and moving us closer to that vision
Yeah.
of peace and unity.
Powerful stuff.
I'm thinking back to that idea you mentioned earlier
Yeah.
about Yitro giving Moses
Oh, yeah?
practical advice about leadership.
Yeah. He wasn't just a spiritual guru.
Can we delve into that aspect of his story a bit?
Absolutely. It's
Yeah.
often overlooked.
Yeah.
But Yitro doesn't just arrive at the camp. and embrace the Torah.
Right.
He also observes how the Israelites are organizing themselves and offers some very insightful advice to Moses about leadership and delegation.
He's like a consultant.
Kind of.
That's right. He sees Moses struggling to handle everything himself.
Yeah. Poor Moses.
So he suggests creating a system of judges.
Bart.
To help share the burden.
Yeah, delegate.
And this advice isn't just relevant to ancient Israel.
Right. It's timeless.
It has profound implications for leadership.
And organizational structures.
To today.
100%.
Yitro understood the importance of distributing responsibility.
Yeah, teamwork.
Empowering others.
Exactly.
And creating systems
that allow for greater efficiency and effectiveness.
So even in this seemingly mundane detail, we see that Yitro embodies
a spirit of practicality.
A spirit of practicality and wisdom.
Yeah, he's got it all.
That transcends his time.
He's ahead of his time.
He's not just a spiritual seeker.
Yeah.
But also a keen observer of human nature.
And a skilled problem solver.
Exactly. And this adds another layer.
To his symbolism.
To his symbolism as a prototype for the nations.
He's like the ultimate role model.
He shows us that embracing truth and pursuing spiritual growth
doesn't mean abandoning practical wisdom.
Doesn't mean abandoning practical wisdom or neglecting
the
challenges of everyday life.
The real world is still there.
It's about bringing those spiritual values
into the real
world and using them to create
They'll make a difference.
A more just compassionate
and well-functioning society.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
You said it perfectly.
Yitro's story reminds us that spirituality isn't just about abstract concepts or otherworldly visions.
It's about how we live.
It's about living those values in our daily lives.
Yeah, walking the walk.
In the way we interact with each other.
Treat each other with kindness.
And in the way we build our communities and our world.
It's all connected.
You know, it's amazing how a story from like thousands of years ago
I know, right?
Can still feel so relevant to our lives today.
That's the power of these like ancient narratives. They're not just like historical accounts.
Right.
They contain like this timeless wisdom that speaks to the human experience.
It's like they tap into something deeper.
Yeah.
You know?
For sure.
What strikes me about Yitro's story is like its message of hope.
Yeah.
In a world that often feels so like divided and cynical.
Totally.
It's a powerful reminder.
Yeah.
That transformation and unity are possible.
It gives you hope.
Yeah.
That things can change.
Yeah.
And the better.
I agree. It's like he's showing us a different way of relating.
A different way of being in the world.
Yeah.
A way based on...
You the world. A way based on seeking truth.
Yes.
Building bridges and recognizing our shared humanity.
Like focusing on what unites us.
Exactly. I mean, think about it. He was a high priest.
Right.
Of a different religion.
Yeah, he had his own.
He had his own established beliefs.
Totally.
And traditions.
Yeah, but he was still...
Yet he was open to questioning.
Not to.
To seeking something more.
He was searching.
And that openness led him to a profound...
Spiritual awakening.
Spiritual awakening.
It's inspiring.
Yeah, his journey challenges us to examine our own assumptions.
To question what we think we know.
Step outside our comfort zone.
When uncomfortable.
And engage with ideas that might be different from our own.
Be open to new perspectives. It's like that saying.
All of this one.
The mind is like a parachute.
Yeah.
It only works when it's open.
So true.
Yitro embodies that open-mindedness.
He did.
He wasn't afraid to challenge the status quo.
He was a rebel.
Explore new perspectives.
Yeah.
And ultimately embrace a truth that transcended...
That went beyond...
his initial worldview.
Yeah, he expanded his horizons.
And by doing so, he becomes... a symbol of hope.
For all of us. For all of humanity.
Yeah, he shows us that it's possible.
Right.
To move beyond our differences.
Yeah, to find common ground and to work together.
Collaborate.
Toward a shared vision of peace and understanding.
Beautiful. The Jewish sages view him as like the prototype of the Ger Tzedek, which means a righteous convert.
Yeah.
Imagine somebody going from worshiping idols to embracing the one God of Israel.
That's quite the transformation.
Yeah.
So how does that play into the bigger picture of Jewish thought?
So the Midrash, which is, it's a collection of rabbinic interpretation stories and interpretations, says that Yitro actually worshipped every form of idolatry.
Wow.
Before recognizing the absolute truth of HaShem.
Okay.
So he embodies this complete rejection of falsehood.
Yeah.
and total acceptance of truth. And that's important because it parallels the prophetic vision of the Messianic era.
Okay.
Just like Yitro embraced the Torah,
Yeah.
the sages teach that all nations will eventually acknowledge God's sovereignty.
So it's like he's a model for all of us.
Exactly.
For how we can move towards truth and understanding.
Right. And it's
Wow.
even more intriguing when you consider when he arrived at the Israelite camp, it wasn't just a random thing.
Okay.
The sages teach that his arrival was a prerequisite for the giving of the Torah.
Hold on. So you're saying that the Torah couldn't be given until Yitro showed up.
That's what the sages say.
Why is that?
Because the Torah wasn't meant just for the Jewish people. It was meant for all humanity.
Oh, okay.
The Zohar, which is a key work of Jewish mysticism,
Yeah.
teaches that the world wasn't spiritually ready to receive the Torah
Okay.
until Yitro said, "Now I know that HaShem is greater than all gods."
Hmm.
That declaration
Right.
was the catalyst for the world to be rectified
I see.
and be able to receive the Torah.
So a non-Jew played like a crucial role
Right.
in making the giving of the Torah possible.
Yeah.
That really changes how we usually think about
It does.
what the Torah is for.
It suggests that the purpose of the Torah is deeply connected to this idea of
Mhm.
all nations coming to recognize and embrace its wisdom.
Okay, so this connection between Yitro and the rest of the world, you're saying that becomes even stronger when we look at how the sages link him to the Messianic era.
Exactly.
Okay, so now we're talking about the future.
Right.
What does Yitro have to do with the Messianic era?
The Midrash links Yitro's recognition of HaShem
Okay.
to the prophecy that all nations will go up to the mountain of God
Okay.
to learn his ways.
Mm-hmm.
Think about it. Yitro went to that mountain where the Torah was given,
Right.
and he declared God's supremacy.
Yeah.
So it's like a foreshadowing of what's to come.
He's like a trailblazer leading the way.
Right.
Okay, so he represents recognizing and connecting to God.
Exactly.
But what about those who choose like the opposite?
Yeah.
Is there like a counterpoint to Yitro in the Torah?
There is, and it's right there in the text.
Okay.
The section on Yitro comes immediately after the story of Amalek's attack
Mm-hmm.
on the Israelites.
Okay.
That placement's no accident.
You're saying there's a deliberate contrast being drawn?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Amalek represents the forces that reject God.
Okay.
They attack Israel. They thrive on doubt
Right.
and opposition to the divine mission.
And Yitro is the opposite.
Yitro represents those who recognize God
Okay.
and willingly attach themselves to that mission.
So the Torah is presenting us with a choice almost.
It is,
The path of Amalek,
which is rejection,
Oh.
or the path of Yitro.
which is recognition and connection.
Exactly.
Mm.
And this isn't just about individuals.
Okay.
The sages say these two paths exist for entire nations as well.
This whole idea of paths and choices
Yeah.
makes me think about the third day,
Yeah.
which I definitely want to dive into.
Sure.
But before we jump ahead,
Okay.
I want to make sure we really understand Yitro's significance.
Right.
You mentioned that the Arizal and the
Mhm.
Vilna Gaon
Mm-hmm.
had some specific insights about Yitro's arrival at Sinai.
They did.
Can you elaborate on those a bit?
The Arizal saw Yitro's arrival at Sinai as representing
Yeah.
the potential for holiness to be elevated
Mm-hmm.
among all nations.
Interesting.
It's like there's a spark of recognition
Okay.
that eventually grows into a full embrace of divine truth.
Mm.
And then the Vilna Gaon takes it even further.
Okay.
He teaches that the final battle between light and darkness
Mm-hmm.
will end with all nations recognizing God's kingship,
Wow.
just like Yitro did.
Oh. So it's not just a personal event.
Right.
It's a model for the potential spiritual evolution of the whole world.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing that
Yeah.
the potential for spiritual growth exists within everyone,
Right.
no
Yeah.
matter their background.
That's a powerful message.
Yeah,
Before we move on to the third day,
sure.
is there anything else about Yitro's story that really stands out to you?
You know what strikes me is the courage it took
Yeah.
for Yitro to leave everything he knew
Right.
and embrace a completely new path.
Right.
He was a respected priest,
Mm.
but he was willing to let go of that
Yeah.
and all those beliefs to pursue truth.
That's a good point.
It reminds us that growth often requires us to step outside of our comfort zones
Mm.
and challenge our preconceived notions.
Absolutely. It's easy to get stuck in our own ways. But Yitro's story shows us that real transformation is possible when we're open to new ideas and willing to embrace the unknown.
Mhm.
It's a good reminder for all of us. All right, let's shift gears now
Yeah.
and dive into the concept of the third day.
Okay.
I'm curious to hear what insights you have about this intriguing idea.
Yeah.
All right.
Sounds good.
Okay, the third day. It sounds a bit mysterious, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
What's so special about the number 3 in Jewish thought?
Oh, it pops up everywhere.
Really?
Yeah. Like the written Torah,
Okay.
it has 3 parts: Torah, Nevi'im, Ketuvim.
Right.
The Jewish people themselves, comprised of Kohanim, Leviim, and Yisraelim.
Right.
Even Moses,
Yeah.
who brought us the Torah, was a third-born child.
Huh.
And of course, the Torah was given in the 3rd month, Sivan.
Wow. I never really put all that together before.
Yeah,
But what does that all have to do with the third day itself?
Well, the sages point out that this phrase, "and it came to pass on the 3rd day," often signals that something's complete, that the preparation is done.
Okay.
It shows up in the Torah, connected to the giving of the Torah itself,
Okay.
and even hints at the ultimate redemption.
Hmm.
Think of it like
Yeah.
baking a cake.
Okay.
You wouldn't eat it right after you mix all the ingredients, would you?
No.
It needs time in the oven
Right.
to reach its full potential.
I like that. So the third day isn't just like a literal time frame. It's about this state of readiness.
Exactly. And the Midrash teaches us that divine revelations often occur on the 3rd day
Okay.
because it represents a balance between kindness and judgment, which is gevura.
Okay.
And this balance creates harmony,
Okay.
tiferet, making it the perfect time to receive wisdom.
So it's not just time passing, it's achieving a certain inner state.
Precisely.
Okay.
And Hasidic thought takes this even further,
Yeah.
explaining that the 3rd day symbolizes spiritual maturity.
Interesting.
It's about integrating inspiration and discipline, about reaching a state of readiness
Yeah.
to internalize divine wisdom.
That makes me think about Yitro's journey.
Oh, yeah.
He had to balance his previous beliefs with the truth he was discovering.
Yeah.
Could we say that his personal transformation was like a 3rd day experience?
That's a fantastic connection.
Yeah.
He had to go through his own internal process
Right.
to reach that point of revelation.
Right.
And,
Yeah.
the Zohar teaches that the preparation for receiving the Torah corresponds to tiferet,
Okay.
that state of harmony,
Yeah.
where divine light is fully integrated into human consciousness.
Wow, so the third day is like a metaphor for this whole spiritual process.
You got it.
We're not just sitting around waiting, we're actively refining, preparing ourselves.
Right. It's about reaching a point
Okay.
where we can truly grasp and embody divine wisdom.
But it's not always easy, is it?
No, it's not.
Think about the Israelites at Mount Sinai.
Okay.
They had just escaped slavery in Egypt,
Right.
a place of intense spiritual darkness.
Mm-hmm.
They were still carrying the weight of that experience with them.
The trauma, the ingrained habits of a slave mentality.
So they weren't exactly like skipping through the desert in a state of pure bliss,
No.
ready to receive the Torah.
They needed time
Right.
to shed those old patterns, purify themselves,
Okay.
and elevate their consciousness.
Okay, so that's where the third day comes in.
That's where it comes in.
Those 3 days of preparation before receiving the Torah,
Yeah.
it wasn't just about physical cleansing.
Right.
It was about inner transformation.
Exactly.
A shift from slavery to freedom,
Yes.
spiritual darkness to enlightenment.
It marked that moment when they crossed a threshold,
Okay.
reaching a state of readiness for that divine wisdom.
How can you prepare yourself,
Yeah.
like Yitro did,
Mm-hmm.
to recognize and receive wisdom in your life?
What choices can you make today
Yeah.
to move closer to that state of readiness,
Yeah.
to that third day?
That third day of personal and collective enlightenment.
Keep seeking,
Yeah.
keep questioning, keep striving to align yourself with what's true, good, and beautiful.
That's a great message.
That path is there
Yeah.
for everyone who chooses to walk it.
It is.
And remember,
Yeah.
you're not alone on this journey,
No, we're all in this together.
supporting each other
Right.
every step of the way.
Beautiful. Thanks for joining us on this incredible deep dive.
My pleasure.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep shining your light.